I should have stayed in my cabin that night. But when I heard crying from the lake at midnight, I didn't know it was my colleague's wife. And I definitely didn't know this weekend would become a confession I'd carry forever. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 27 years old and I work as a financial analyst at Berkshire Capital Management in Boston. Berkshire Capital does this retreat every October. 3 days at this exclusive lakeside resort, supposedly for team building and strategic planning. Really, it's an excuse for senior management to play golf while the rest of us pretend to care about trust falls and corporate synergy workshops. I'd been with the company for 2 years. Long enough to know the politics, not long enough to matter much in the hierarchy. David Hartwell was different. He was 47, a senior vice president, one of those guys who commanded every room he walked into. Confident, bordering on arrogant, always impeccably dressed, always with the right answer in meetings. We weren't friends exactly, but we worked together often enough. He was demanding, sometimes condescending, but undeniably brilliant at his job. The kind of man who made you feel small without even trying. I'd met his wife Melissa maybe twice before the retreat, brief introductions at company holiday parties. She was always perfectly pleasant, always standing slightly behind David, smiling politely while he networked aggressively. I remember thinking she seemed quieter than I'd expected for someone married to David, more reserved, almost invisible next to his overwhelming presence. The company encouraged spouses to attend the retreat. It's a celebration of our corporate family, the email had said. Most people brought their partners. I came alone as usual, figuring I'd spend the weekend hiking, reading, avoiding the forced socialization as much as possible. We arrived Friday afternoon. The resort was stunning in that rustic luxury way wealthy people pretend is roughing it. Log cabins scattered around a pristine lake, mountains rising dramatically in the background, October leaves painting everything in gold and crimson. I checked into my cabin, a small but comfortable one-bedroom overlooking the water. The evening kicked off with a welcome reception on the main lodge's deck. Open bar, appetizers, the CEO giving an enthusiastic speech about teamwork and innovation that everyone applauded politely while mentally calculating how much free alcohol they could consume. That's where I saw Melissa again. She stood near the edge of the deck holding a glass of white wine, wearing a simple but elegant cream-colored sweater and dark jeans. Her blonde hair fell in soft waves past her shoulders, and something about the way the sunset light caught her face made me actually look at her, really look at her, for the first time. She was beautiful. Not in the obvious way that turns heads, but in a quieter, more profound way. Fine lines around her striking green eyes that suggested a life fully lived. A graceful way of holding herself that spoke of natural elegance rather than effort. There was something deeply compelling about her that I'd completely missed in our previous brief encounters. David was across the deck, loudly telling a story to a circle of junior analysts who laughed on cue. Melissa stood alone watching her husband with an expression I couldn't quite read. Not pride exactly, something more complicated. Resignation, maybe, or loneliness. I found myself walking over without really deciding to. "Mrs. Hartwell," I said. "Ethan Cole. We met at the holiday party last year." She turned and her smile was genuine but carried a weight behind it. "Of course, Ethan." "Please, call me Melissa. Mrs. Hartwell makes me feel ancient." "You're not ancient," I said, then immediately felt stupid for saying it. But she laughed, a real laugh that seemed to surprise her. "You're kind." Most people at these things just pretend spouses don't exist. We're decorative furniture that happens to talk occasionally. There was no bitterness in her voice, just matter-of-fact acknowledgement. I glanced over at David, still holding court. "That must be frustrating," I said carefully. "You have no idea." She took a long sip of wine. "But that's marriage to an ambitious man. You become part of the background of their success story." The honesty startled me. This wasn't polite small talk. This was real, raw, and completely unexpected from someone I barely knew. We talked for maybe 20 minutes. She asked about my work, actually listened to my answers, asked thoughtful follow-up questions. She told me she'd been an architect before marriage, had given it up when David's career took off, and they'd started trying for children. "Did you have kids?" I asked. "No." Her voice went quiet. "Turns out I couldn't." "And David." Well, he decided his career was enough legacy for him. I just decided to stop mattering. The pain in those words hit me hard. Before I could respond, David appeared, putting a possessive hand on Melissa's shoulder. Sweetheart, we should mingle. Ethan, good to see you. He steered her away without waiting for a response. She glanced back at me once, and something in that look stayed with me long after they disappeared into the crowd. Saturday was packed with mandatory activities. Team building exercises that felt like torture, a long hike that left me exhausted, group dinner that dragged on forever. I kept catching glimpses of Melissa throughout the day, always near David, always quiet, always seeming like she wanted to be anywhere else. During dinner, I noticed them arguing quietly at their table. Nothing dramatic, just tense whispered exchanges. David's face was flushed with anger or alcohol or both. Melissa's expression was carefully blank. By the time dinner ended, I was exhausted and more than ready for solitude. I went back to my cabin around 9, changed into comfortable clothes, poured a whiskey, and sat on my small porch watching moonlight paint silver across the lake. The resort had mostly quieted down. Some people were at the main lodge bar, but the cabins were dark and peaceful. I was planning to read for a while and then sleep. That's when I heard it. Crying. Quiet but unmistakable. Coming from the direction of the lake. I should have stayed in my cabin. I should have minded my own business. But something about those sobs, the raw pain in them, pulled me off my porch and down the path toward the water. The lake stretched out calm and dark, mountains silhouetted against a star-filled sky. And there, sitting on the dock with her feet dangling above the water, was Melissa. She was wearing a thick cardigan over what looked like pajamas, her blonde hair loose and slightly messy. Her shoulders shook with quiet sobs she was clearly trying to muffle. Melissa? I said softly, not wanting to startle her. She jumped anyway, turning quickly and wiping at her face. Ethan, God, I'm sorry. I didn't think anyone would be out here. Are you okay? Stupid question. Obviously she wasn't. I'm fine. Just needed some air. She tried to smile, but it crumbled immediately. I'm not fine. I'm not fine at all. I sat down next to her on the dock, leaving respectful space between us. Want to talk about it? For a long moment, she just stared out at the water. Then, quietly, do you know what it's like to disappear? To be married to someone for 19 years and realize you've become completely invisible? No, I admitted, but I'm listening. And she talked, really talked, about how David had changed over the years, becoming more focused on status and success than their relationship. About how she'd given up her career to support his, thinking it was temporary, only to wake up years later and realize she'd erased herself completely. About the constant subtle dismissals, the way he introduced her at events as if she was an afterthought, the growing emotional distance that had become a chasm. Tonight at dinner, I suggested we take a vacation together, she said, her voice breaking. Just the two of us. Somewhere quiet. And he laughed. Actually laughed. Said he couldn't possibly take time off right now, that I should understand how important his career is. Like I haven't understood and sacrificed for 19 years. I'm so sorry, I said and meant it. I'm 45 years old, Ethan. I gave up everything for a man who doesn't even see me anymore. And the worst part? I don't even know who I am without him. I've been David's wife for so long, I forgot how to be just Melissa. The moonlight caught the tears on her cheeks, and something in my chest tightened painfully. I see you, I said quietly. She turned to look at me, really look at me, and the intensity in her green eyes made my breath catch. Do you? She asked. Because I've been invisible for so long, I'm not sure I'm even real anymore. You're real, I said. You're sitting here, hurting, being brave enough to be honest about it. That's real. That's you. She laughed, but it was sad and broken. I'm 45 years old crying on a dock at midnight while my husband drinks with his colleagues. This isn't brave. This is pathetic. It's not pathetic. It's human. We sat in silence for a while, just the sound of gentle water lapping against the dock and the distant call of a night bird. Thank you for listening, Melissa said finally. Most people wouldn't. Most people are idiots, I said, and she laughed again, this time with a hint of genuine amusement. You're very young, she said, but not unkindly. 27 isn't that young. It is when you're 45. She smiled sadly. You still have time to avoid becoming what I am. Don't give yourself away completely to someone else, Ethan. Keep something for yourself. What if I told you I think you're remarkable? I said, surprising myself with my boldness. She looked at me with something between confusion and hope. You don't know me. I know you're intelligent. You asked me questions tonight that showed you actually listen, actually think. I know you're kind because you're worried about me taking romantic advice when you're the one hurting. I know you loved someone enough to sacrifice everything for him. And I know you're beautiful in a way your husband has somehow stopped seeing. Ethan. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry if that's inappropriate. But you said you felt invisible. I'm telling you, I see you completely. The air between us changed, charged with something dangerous and electric. We were sitting closer now, though I wasn't sure when that had happened. This is wrong, she said, but she didn't move away. I know. You work with my husband. I know. I'm 18 years older than you. I don't care. You should care. But I don't. She reached up and touched my face, her hand trembling slightly. If I kiss you right now, everything changes. We can't take it back. Then don't kiss me, I said. Unless you want to. I want to so much it scares me, she whispered. And then she did kiss me. Soft at first, tentative, like she was afraid she'd forgotten how. But when I kissed her back, it deepened into something urgent and desperate and absolutely electric. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. My cabin, she whispered. David is staying at the lodge bar for hours. He does this every year. Gets drunk with executives, crashes in one of the guest rooms because he's too intoxicated to walk back. We have time. Melissa, are you sure? I haven't been sure about anything in years. But right now, I'm sure I need to feel something other than invisible. Even if it's just for tonight. I followed her back to the cabin she was sharing with David, my heart pounding so hard I thought she might hear it. The place was larger than mine, clearly meant for executives. Empty now except for us. What happened next was intense, passionate, and completely unlike anything I'd experienced before. Melissa wasn't hesitant or uncertain. She was confident, knowing exactly what she wanted, guiding me with assurance that came from